On this episode of the Project Management Podcast, we identify differences in style, work ethic, and perspective between team members of different generations, seniority, and experience.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com. I am Cornelius Fichtner. We are coming to you live from the impressive 2017 PMI Global Conference in Chicago. And with me right now is Justin Fraser. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and speak to you this morning. And you got my name right, which is fantastic. Most people say some variation.
We had a small mix-up before we started the interview with my questions. I pulled out the questions for a different interview.
No problem.
So at least I got the name right.
Yes,
That's a good one.
Nailed it.
Is this your first Congress?
So this is my third time attending a Congress. This is my first time presenting.
Wow. Yes. So comparing it to the previous ones, what's the energy like this year?
I think the energy is great. Actually, every year the energy is always great. It's a bit colder here in Chicago than the last 2 years in Florida and San Diego, but this year has been fantastic. Lots of great talks, and the keynotes are motivating and exciting, and I'm sensing really good energy from a lot of people here.
Right. Now, your topic is about millennials and how we're getting results without formal authority. But let me bring this back to the Congress. You're a millennial.
I am.
You're the younger generation.
Yes.
What brings you back here? What has the Congress that it offers to you as a millennial that you say, I need to go there. This is important.
Yeah. So I'm the only project manager in my company right now. And this is something that is important to me because I need to see what others are doing in the industry and in the world. And you can only take it so far with podcasts like yours are great to learn a new tip here or there, but getting face to face and hearing the talks and networking with folks at breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all the other opportunities that are provided here really gives me an opportunity to talk about the challenges that I face and connect with people that have very similar challenges and, build relationships with folks that can help me out even when I go back to my office and leave the Congress.
So the topic of your presentation is Millennial Project Managers, getting results without formal authority.
Yeah.
What's the backstory here? What interested you? What prompted you?
Yeah.
Why this topic?
So I started managing projects. I was 20 years old. I was actually still in college. I went to Drexel University, and they have an amazing program where you can go to school full-time for 6 months, and then you go work full-time for 6 months. And so I started out doing project management. I was thrown into projects with clients, deliverables, timelines, and I was 20 years old. And I didn't even have a degree at that time. And so there were a lot of challenges that I had connecting with folks that, when they met me, they said, I've been doing this. I've been managing this project or this product longer than you've been alive. And, my son is your age, or my kids are older than you. And, those are some things that I would hear over and over and over again. I think it's an interesting topic because, now I've been doing this for 8 or 9 years. I see other project managers coming in that have the same kind of struggles. So I wanted to get the word out and talk to some people about some strategies for connecting with people so that you can still get your work done and you can work with someone who has, it doesn't matter how many more years of experience they have than you, but you can still manage them in a way that will result in a successful project.
Let's take a step back. What is a millennial?
A millennial is going to be someone who was born 1984 to maybe about 2000. So sort of the younger generation, you're maybe 32 to 18 to 20, somewhere around there. We tend to have, a different outlook on life than as any generation does. You have right now in the workforce, mostly baby boomer generation, then the Gen X sort of in the middle, and now millennials. And coming up in the next few years, we're going to have Generation Z, they're about kids that are 18 or so, graduating high school right now, heading into college, and they're going to be entering the workforce real soon. And every generation has a different styles, communication styles. They have different expectations on work-life balance, flexibility, and just the way that they approach life and work in general. So the common thread between all of those generations is you have to be able to communicate. And so if we can't, my goal with this talk and in my day-to-day life is to figure out how to communicate, how to emphasize with someone who's maybe just graduating high school or college, or someone that's been around for 30, 40 years doing their job.
Mm-hmm. So we started out with the baby boomers, mid-60s.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that ends. I'm just at the tail end there. Generation X, 65 to 83. Mm-hmm. Millennials, 84 to 2000. Yeah. Generation Z, or for our international listeners, Generation Z.
There you go. Yep.
For starting at about 2000. Which of these other generations understands millennials best? Other than millennials, obviously.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. After my talk today, we had some really good discussion with people of all different generations, and one woman in particular was telling me that she really identified with this talk, and she's a baby boomer, and she remembers when she was the new person at the office and dealing with generations before her, two generations before her, and the challenges that she had faced coming in being the new person. And so actually everyone can relate and remember what it was like when you're the new guy or the new person just coming into the workforce. And so I think there's an element of understanding among all different generations, but it's all different as well. Everyone has their own unique outlook and perspective based on what they've gone through in their lives and how much experience they have.
And isn't today's modern world also adding another dimension on top of that? Back when I got into the workforce, it was all still slow paced, frankly.
Yeah.
Today, everything is fast paced. You connect on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything moves very, very quickly. There is just a different feel to how the younger generation lives their lives.
Oh, absolutely. For me, you mentioned it before about even scheduling this session.
So let's back up here.
Yeah.
So this was the fastest ever scheduled session at the Congress here.
Right.
I didn't know your email address, so I used the PMI app. I sent you a message saying, "Hey, I'm Cornelius from the podcast. Would you like to be interviewed?" Within 7 minutes, we had agreed on a day, time, and a place to meet right now.
Yep.
And here we are recording it. This is, it's almost like swiping right. We're done.
That's right. Of course. No, that's how I do business. That's how I live my life. I get my notifications on my phone and, think I'm representative of a lot of millennials, but, for me, and that even goes back to project management, I like to schedule things as far in advance as I possibly can. And, I like to, be prompt and responsive to people because that's how I want people to treat me as well. And so, for me, it's not either I wanted to do it or I didn't. And of course, you present an opportunity. I wanted to meet with you. I wanted to do this interview. And, why wait? Why hesitate? Let's jump in it and schedule the interview. I didn't even, I didn't even know all the details. I just said, yeah, we'll book it. We'll do it and we'll figure it out as we go.
Afterwards, he sends me a message. Where do I find the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, so I was able to listen to a few episodes on the flight over and, really enjoy it. And, it's for me, it's a good opportunity. Let's get it scheduled and we'll figure out the rest as we go. And I think that's maybe representative of the millennial generation as well, where we need to be able to, we can jump on opportunity and recognize it and then worry about the details as we go. And so that sort of fits into my project management style as well. If I recognize that this is going to be a good opportunity, a good meeting for us to have as a project team, let's do it. I still, of course, I'm always trying to plan out into the future, but, when you have that opportunity, jump on it. Oh, why wait?
What are some assumptions that the older generations have about millennials?
Yeah, this is something I asked the group during my talk today, and I received a lot of things like, always glued to their phones, impatient, millennials, don't care as much about traditional policies and procedures, and so basically people think millennials just sort of, I think, beat to their own drum and don't necessarily care about what other folks are doing. And I think that we do, of course, and it's actually we care more about, we care a lot about social issues, and we want to work for companies that are helping out, with charity days and some other things that are, we have different values than what a employee who's, 50 years old might value.
Let's talk about these values for a bit. So what is the value that's around flexibility and freedom?
Yes. I mean, we value companies that are going to let us be flexible. I work with a lot of folks who, some of them come in at 11 o'clock in the morning to start their workday, but they work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And that's important for someone who's 22, 23, 26, that to be able to, if you have the type of company and corporate environment that allows that, that's a big draw. We value work from home. We want to be able to make our schedules the way that works for us and sort of not be necessarily bound to a traditional 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We value even as simple as a casual work environment. I showed up today wearing my polo shirt because, and where lots of the presenters, I think, are wearing suits. And that's, I think, representative of, my workplace. That's what I wear every day. A polo shirt and jeans. And I'm one of the more formally dressed folks in my office. That's not a joke.
I used to work for a company like that as well. Yeah.
And, that actually means a lot to some workers because, I want to be able to express myself and be comfortable and come in and do my job, on a schedule that I agree works for me. And, for that to work, of course, we have to have established some guidelines, right? We have to have if I'm working from home, I have to actually be working. I can't be, out, all day. I have to actually be doing my job. But if an employer can build that trust with employees, then I'm happy to do that, and I'm actually more productive usually when I work from home.
No interruptions.
No interruptions. I'm able, as a project manager, I have usually all sorts of status reports and things I need to just sometimes sit down and do without the hassle of someone coming up to my desk and interrupting me, and I can minimize the Skype window and email and focus on what I need to focus on to be productive.
Status reports, flexibility. Process, follow the process. How does that work for you as a millennial project manager? Because oftentimes, especially in larger companies, you may have auditors and you must do it this way. There is no flexibility. That's just the way it's gotta be. Does that work for you?
Yeah. So when I'm managing a project, I'm managing different audiences. So I have teams of folks who maybe are millennials, maybe some older that are on my project team. I have clients that I need to report to. And then I have our internal stakeholders, vice presidents, my manager, people that need to know at a higher level what the status is on my project. So I actually have to adapt my style based on the audience that I'm working for. And, we also have clients, and some clients are very, very relaxed, and some clients are very, very formal. And, maybe it's a pharmaceutical company or financial company where, they need that formal status report, every single week, and they need certain metrics, and they need all that information. So I'm happy to give it to them. But then other times we'll work with, maybe a different type of company that doesn't need that. And so I can adapt what I need to do. And sometimes that means more work for me. If I am trying to be casual with my team and one client, but then more formal with another client, that's okay, because I need to do what works best for each client and each team that I report to.
You mentioned your management style. What about other people's management style that are around you? How does that affect you as a millennial?
Yeah, everyone has their own style of management, and if I'm being forced to follow someone else's style, I'm probably not going to like it very much. But what I would like is to understand why their style is the way it is and what essentially they need. If someone is trying to impose, if a manager is trying to impose, we must do X, Y, Z because that's the way I've always done it, then that's something I'm going to challenge. But if it's something that's, regulatory or needed by a certain stakeholder, then, we'll adapt and deliver what they need.
Work-life balance is another topic that you talked about.
Work-life balance is really important, I think, for everyone these days, because you're seeing a shift where work is part of life. And work-life balance actually is sort of not even the correct term anymore because it's all the same. My life and work happen at the same time. I might get a call from my wife during the workday that I need to talk talk to her. I might get an email from my boss when I'm sitting down to dinner. And so if work can be flexible with me during the day, I can be flexible with them on the evenings and weekends. And so it has to work with your company and with your culture, but sort of a mutual understanding that I will get my job done, but it might not be from 9 to 5 every single day.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned communication style earlier on. How does that differ?
So communication style is, I think, the key that sort of breaks through all of these differences between generations, because if I can communicate in a way that opens up and I can understand, someone who's a baby boomer or Gen Z, then that sort of cuts through all the noise. And if I can get to the heart of what they're saying and why they're saying it and communicate with them in a way that they understand my point of view, then we can go ahead and be productive together.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the fact that we, baby boomers, and the people that followed me, that they have assumptions about millennials. What assumptions do you have about us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I assume that people, and probably not rightly so, but in my experience, people who have worked in the same environment or on the same product for 20 years or more, they are set in their ways. And some folks are, maybe feel threatened or challenged when someone comes in with some new ideas. But that's, I think, also part of my job to push and challenge people and challenge their ideas. But then also you have to have a level of respect for the experience that they have. And, that's why I think communication is key, because then we can come to a common understanding and I need to figure out what you think, because you may be very different from the person next to you, even if you're born in the same year, same day, but have very different life experiences. So I try to be open to everyone's different perspective, and I talk about this in my talk, but I try to sit down with every person, either a client or team member, both in and outside of the office, and I try to get a understanding of who they are and where they're coming from, so that I don't approach my interactions with them based on these stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Because if you and I sit down for even just half an hour and I get an understanding of the types of projects you've been on and your challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, I can adapt my style to work with you.
How do you lead older team members? What's your approach?
So my approach is, it starts with connecting with them. Mm-hmm. We have to find some common ground, whether we have shared interests in hiking or a food or a favorite restaurant or traveling to a similar place. We start with that connection between them. And I try to talk to folks. I try to get them out of the office too. We are able to do some nice team building events my company promotes. But in the past I've done, maybe there's no budget for a team building event. We'll go and do some charity work. Maybe the company can give us a charity day and we all go do Habitat for Humanity, or we've done painting for the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program. And just you get out of the office and experience a different set of challenges, a different set of problems and interactions with folks that you wouldn't normally get inside the office. And so be able to better understand, where they're coming from, how they handle a different type of problem. While we're doing that, I'm noticing, the types of people they complain about or the type of work ethic they have, and sort of just taking some mental notes about all the people around me, because that just helps me better understand where they're coming from.
You're getting to know them. You're building a relationship.
Absolutely.
You're not doing anything different, really, than I guess many of the textbooks tell us to do.
It's just doing it, So I think some people, you get put on a project with a new team and it's just jump in the project and start, and they rely on some assumptions or stereotypes that they have about different types of people. And, as soon as I can, I try to build relationships with people, because if I am conscious about the way that they're acting and the way the challenges that they're having, then we can work together in a way that's beneficial for all of us.
Yeah. We're talking about, the generational gap here between the millennials and everybody else. And let me take you way, way back to the project manager who installed the first weaving loom.
Okay.
Right. Can you imagine what kind of pushback that he or she got back then, working on this project, bringing on this newfangled machine that's going to make all of us, manual weavers redundant.
Mm-hmm.
I had exactly the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the end of the baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of that generation who brought the first software into offices.
Mm-hmm.
People were afraid that we were making them redundant.
Sure.
We had new ideas. This is the wave of the future. This is how it's going to go.
Right.
And I bet you every project manager, every young project manager who comes in and tries to bring in these new technologies is facing exactly the same challenges.
That's exactly that. That's an amazing point that I got from the discussion after my talk today, because when you started your career, you were the fresh one out of school with all these new ideas. That's the same thing that people after you push new ideas on them, and the people after them push new ideas there. And even now, we have apps and websites that are promoting different ways of communicating and managing projects and collaboration that are not as widely adopted, but are starting to be adopted. And it's the same idea as, do I need a written status report, or can I check the Slack channel? And, there's different tools that are being used now that project managers or the younger generation is trying to push. And maybe some of them will stick, and some people are very open to it, and some people are not. Mm. And it's probably the same with when you started out as well. And people are always generally resistant to change, but I think a lot of people really see the value. And, one really motivating thing from the comments after the talk today was people were saying how they love working with millennials because it's like these fresh new ideas, and they get new energy, and they're excited to learn about the new apps or new tools that will help them do their day-to-day jobs.
Mm-hmm. When I started out, that was kind of where I was at. It was exciting. I enjoyed my work. I was learning something new. What are you passionate about? What drives you in your work? And then, let's also abstract this and say, what are millennials generally passionate? What drives them? What would you say if you bring on millennials? Mm-hmm. How can you,
So as far as the work goes, the types of projects that I run, we manage business system design. Yeah. So it's not something that's normally public facing. It's not that hip and cool, newest app that's being, promoted by the App Store or anything. But the cool thing is we're designing business systems that are used in business every day, whether it's a new way of reporting taxes for a global corporation, or a way of tracking oil movements across the U.S., or even designing locking mechanisms for an entire university or something. And the different way that companies are innovating in the software development space. And our company interviews users, and we get to the heart of how people can use this system and how the system can help them instead of getting in the way. And so for me, that's pretty interesting because we do all sorts of validation and testing afterwards, and we see how people say, yeah, this is going to be so much better for XYZ reasons, and we incorporate their feedback and we just make it better and better. And so for me, there's that extra level of, it's not just a job, we're actually helping people do their jobs in a more efficient way. And so I think that ties back to millennials, where we, in general, want that sort of extra level of meaning and that extra level of purpose. Is it for social good, or is it helping, are we helping other folks do their jobs better?
One of your slides in the presentation says borrow authority.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
This is my favorite slide in the entire presentation.
I picked a good one.
I'm so glad you asked me about it. Because early in my career, I was struggling with a team member who they really felt like they had all the answers. And they even were, they felt like they had the big idea, and the client didn't even know what they wanted. And he was basically doing things that were not in the statement of work and were not in the plan, and sort of designing his own answer to a question that wasn't really even asked. And I was struggling with, bringing him back in line, and we spoke a lot about it. And he was essentially dismissive of me. You're, young guy, and I know better. And so I think that actually that interaction is sort of the core of why I gave this talk. And so what I was able to do, aside from the direct conversation, which was not working, I went to another senior designer on the team, and who I had done work with previously, and we had a good relationship. And I spoke to him about my challenges. He reviewed what I was saying and agreed with me. So actually, he scheduled a working session with this designer that had been giving me a hard time. And they spent about an hour. It wasn't uncommon at that company for working sessions, cross-team collaboration, so didn't really think anything was out of line. But, they worked together, and this guy that was helping me was able to, I guess, give this person perspective that I was not able to give him. And after their conversation, this designer, met up with me the next day and told me all about his new ideas for how we can change the design to do this, and that. And that's actually matches up with what the client's asking for. And he never even knew that I had scheduled or asked that other person to help out, but I got the result I wanted by borrowing the authority of that other senior designer and having him speak to this person in a way that I couldn't, just because of the barriers that this person and I were having. So the end result, this guy did what was in the plan, and the clients were thrilled, and it actually ended up being a really great solution. And so, for me, it's about finding another solution to a problem that sometimes you can't just tackle head on and push through. You have to be strategic about how you think about a problem, and there's always many different answers and ways to get what you need.
Mm-hmm. Another slide just has a question on it, and I guess that was a group activity, a discussion in the room. What generational friction have you encountered, and how did you handle it? What kind of responses did you get?
We spoke for over 20 minutes, which was fantastic. It was more than I expected, and I was totally thrilled with the group. And I think I touched on a lot of that already in this interview, but, we got responses from some baby boomers who were really happy to attend this conversation because, like I said, remember things. They remember being the new person, and they remember how it was struggling to bring fresh ideas to their organization. And they're working with millennials now, and they're struggling with communicating with them and how to build that bridge and bridge that gap. So it was a really relevant conversation. We had one woman who told us about how she's in Gen X, so she's in the middle, and she said she just hired her first millennial. So we had a good laugh about that. But, this person is in a work from home situation, and I think called into a meeting from a volleyball game or something. And so it was a little unprofessional. And so we discussed, that while millennials, we want that flexibility, I personally think that there needs to be some ground rules or a framework to the flexibility because, like I said before, if I'm working from home, I still need to be doing my job. It's not a free pass to sit on my couch and watch TV all day. I have to be working and be in a productive way. So we talked about, some folks were pretty passionate about, millennials don't want rules and they don't want to be talked down to. We're all adults. Millennials may be viewed as, someone who's, that's my son's age or they have kids of a similar age. But we're working professional adults, and we want to be treated with respect, and we're going to respect you and you respect us, and together we can be productive and get some projects done.
Mm-hmm. Since we are at the PMI Global Conference here, what can PMI do as an organization to offer more and better value to millennials, and also let's look at the next coming generation, Generation Z?
Yeah, that's a great question and a tough one, I think, because I think as you look at the attendees here, I think about less than 20% are millennials.
Mm-hmm. And that has increased in the last couple of years. I'm smiling, I'm astonished, I'm happy that there are so many young people of your generation here.
Absolutely. And we're still a vastly underrepresented minority here. So yes, we have made huge strides. And I think part of that is there's not maybe so many project managers that come out of school and become a project manager. Mm-hmm. They might be a developer for a while and then move into a management type role. For me, I came out of school and just started doing project management right away, but there aren't even that many degrees from universities offered in project management. But PMI can work with millennials in, they already do some webinars and they have a lot of online resources. And that just needs to continue and the outreach needs to continue. And I think they need to get involved at the university level as well and offer, programs, or I don't know if they can offer credits or anything like that. But, folks that are in school maybe don't even know about project management as a career path.
Yeah, you don't grow up saying, I want to be a project manager when I grow up.
You want to be status reports all day, right? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's not...
I want to be the person who helps the astronaut get to the moon.
Exactly.
No, nobody says that.
No. So people need to even know that it's a viable path. And, it's the people that are running their events at their schools and high school, and the people that are coordinating different groups, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and everything like that. Those people that are in those leadership positions, I think naturally make for good project managers, but they don't even know that those positions are out there. So getting some outreach to let people know that this is a path, and I don't know if it's through social media or what, but just to promote that project management is a viable path for people.
Okay. After your presentation was done, people get up, leave the room. Yeah. What is the one thing that you wanted them to take with us that our listeners right now should also be aware of and start applying on their projects from the perspective of millennials, for millennials, from millennials?
Yeah. I mean, millennials are working professionals just like everyone else. We all want to be communicated to in a way that's respectful and where you can emphasize from the other side. You can have empathy from the other side, where if I can better understand where you, as someone who's established in your career, and you can better understand me, someone who's maybe just starting my career a few years into it, we all have goals, and we're all trying to do the best job that we can. So if we can start with that common level of understanding, and get to know each other in a way that we can build a solid relationship, then we can really be productive on our projects together.
Wonderful. Justin, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to do this podcast. I'm really happy that you invited me. I had a great time, so thanks for having me.